What is happening, everybody? My name is Julius, and I'm here with a very special guest, someone I've talked to before, and I love talking to this guy because he is the ultimate, I think the ultimate positive figure, neck and neck, as we were just talking about with Angel, I think, on the internet. Always fun to talk to Mr. Leo Rydell from the Geekly Goods. How are you, my friend?
Hey, thank you so much, Julius, for having me again, bro. I am so excited to be back and excited to be talking about Spider-Man, dude. We are right around the corner from No Way Home. Like, what a great occasion it is to be a Spider-Man fan, dude. Like, it is so close. All the theories, all the rumors, we're going to see them all come to fruition here very, very soon. But I'm so glad that you had me on to talk Spider-Verse because, yes, easily one of my favorites of all of the Spider-Man movies. It is just so good, Julius. Like, what a well done animated masterpiece, man.
Yeah.
Just outstanding.
To quote Ryan Reynolds in Green Lantern, I know, right? And by the way, I have to say, I said this right before we start recording. You got a crazy professional setup. Look at this. Look at you.
Thank you, man. Thank you. Yeah, a little something I put together. I'm actually going to be redoing this after the holiday, so a couple of changes coming up.
Oh, okay. All right. Anything you can tease a little bit?
Maybe a few more lights.
Oh, okay. A fish tank with sharks with lasers on their head in the background.
See, you are already on track.
Okay, so we're obviously here to talk about the animated one, as it were, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, released in 2018. This is a film that is a very unique subject within our lineup of Spider-Man films. The animated one, as I just call it. So, Leo, before we get into the film itself, when you heard that they were going to be doing an animated Spider-Man film, and it was going to be brought to us by the same directors of the Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, the Lego Movie, 21 Jump Street. They were producers, and I think they had writing credits, Chris Lord and Phil Miller. What did you think?
So I gotta admit, I was a little nervous because the last Spider-Man project we had before that was The Amazing Spider-Man 2. So coming off of that was a little jarring because you've already had two Spider-Man franchises that didn't quite go well in the hands of Sony. So thinking about Spider-Verse and before seeing it is a little bit jarring for me because I just didn't have faith. I thought Sony had already dropped the ball a couple times. I was a little worried. And then to hear that it was an animated project was a little bit of a light bulb, but I wasn't quite sold yet. They really didn't grab me up until I saw the movie. Even the trailers, I was still a little nervous. It looked great and it seemed like a great concept, but I was still a little nervous just because of how it had been handled before. But wow, what an absolutely pleasant surprise it ended up being. But just, yeah, before going in, I was definitely nervous and just not as hopeful as I wanted to be, but I'm so glad again that I was pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, you're probably thinking, man, these guys are going to ruin cartoons for me now.
Oh, I mean, seriously, because it's like, all right, they Spider-Man 3, Amazing Spider-Man 2, overpacked. Then you think of another Spider-Man project that could potentially be overpacked, but man, it was handled so well. It just the thought of it though was, nerve-wracking.
Yeah. And we'll definitely explore this idea even more, but there is a lot of stuff in this movie. It's probably, like, in terms of content and character and Spider-Man lore, this has probably the most of any of the films in terms of continuity. But it's all, again, we'll talk about it because there's a lot to talk about when it comes to that. But yeah, it is unlikely, isn't it? You know, you see what happened with the Garfield films. And not, right. I mean, and then they announced we're going to do a Spider-Man film that's animated. For me, I was somewhat interested. I didn't really imagine it coming out. You know what I mean? Like when you hear movies are coming out and you just, okay, that's happening. All right. It doesn't feel like it's happening.
Right. It just didn't feel quite real.
Right. It's kind of like that's kind of how I feel with Morbius. It's like, oh, that's happening. You know what I mean?
Yeah, really. That one, oh man, talk about a little bit of weird timing with that one because that second Spider-Verse trailer came out and it was like, wow, way to show us something that looks spectacular. And then Morbius has a clip and it's like,
Yeah, right. Well,
maybe not.
I'm hoping for that. But obviously we all assume when they announced this that, oh, okay, they're going to try to do Peter Parker animated, right? Because he is Spider-Man.
Yeah.
But this, and they do have Peter Parker and quite a few Peter Parkers in this, but it is primarily about Miles Morales. And Miles is a very new character within the past decade, who I think he was introduced right before 2010 by Brian Michael Bendis. In Ultimate Spider-Man.
09, actually, I think.
Yeah.
08.
Yeah, he was right there at the edge of the ultimate version of Peter Parker's death. And he was there set up to take over, and ever since he's become a fan favorite. I mean, he's inspired partially by Donald Glover, which is the best thing ever. I think Brian Michael Bendis has a black daughter, so that was a big source of inspiration. So there was just a lot of heart put into this character. So what was your familiarity with Miles pre-film?
Oh yeah, I'd read Miles comics and had definitely explored a lot of those lines, especially the Ultimate Spider-Man, that first appearance of his. I've been well aware Secret Wars, like I definitely read some major storylines that include Miles. So I was definitely ecstatic to learn that Miles was coming to some sort of project on screen. It wasn't quite live action, but hey, I very much welcomed an animated version because anything Miles that could be outside of the comics, welcomed it. Like, yes, give it to us. The game has been incredible. Like any Miles Morales content, please just spoon feed it all to us. We are so ready for it. But yes,
feed me.
Right? Like, just get me strong and ready. But I've been aware that he was half black, half Latino, and I like that his origin and some of the things they do with it in this movie. I think is a very good choice. Like they change a couple of story beats about Miles and a little bit about his origin, which who knows what they'll do in the second film, but they definitely change his origins in this one. And it just makes it a lot more enjoyable and fun for an on-screen adventure, especially one that could have been very overwhelming. Like you were saying, lots of content, lots of other spider people. They really could have dropped the ball in terms of how much weight they put on these characters, but they really killed it, man. And the execution really allowed for the spotlight to still remain on Miles.
Yeah. And they make the really smart decision in the film, opening the film by brushing out of the way who Peter Parker, like, okay, we all know who Peter Parker is. we all know that story. We all know the memes of that story, we are so familiar with it. It's ridiculous. They even import audio from Cliff Robertson as Uncle Ben in there because it's so synonymous, right? And then we take our time, a slower transition of really getting to know who Miles Morales is, his relationship with his dad, his interests, the fact that he does speak other languages, his interest in artwork, him knowing his uncle. There's just a lot of character really investing us into Miles. And those are some of my favorite parts of the film. Him in the back of the cop car.
Yeah, right.
So what specifically, in terms of, you brought up changes from the source material, what stood out to you the most?
I just think this group up of the spider people and allowing Miles to like grow in front of them is something that didn't quite happen in the Spider-Verse comics, but is really well told here in Spider-Verse. Miles had already like had powers and things like that, but here to explore it from a starting point where it's like, okay, he really didn't know too much about the spider powers before all the Spider-Verse crossovers started happening. Really like that. And I think that in the comics, we get more exploration between Spider and Peter before they do anything like they did with Doc Ock. But still, I like that we kind of get thrown right into it, thrown in the fire, if you will. And the spider people are just all coming together and teaming up right in the movie. Miles meets them and, of course, is in the middle of boarding school. Like, I just like these little subtle changes to the story to allow all the spider people to appear and Miles to still get his powers at the same time. So he's like growing up with them.
Yeah, and you know what's funny is that the movie is about the merging of universes and personality and everything. And in terms of its story, it's merging a lot of content. Like you get the origin of Miles Morales, you get the little comic run Spider-Men, you get Spider-Verse, you know what I mean? You get all these other characters, Noir, Spider-Gwen, you know what I mean? And they're it's not a mess in the way that other Spider-Man films have kind of been messy. You know, it is perfectly coordinated and they're thought out and everything. You could tell that these people were left alone while making the movie, and I'm appreciative of it, you know?
Yeah, I love the different origin stories of every character, like how they're like, oh, this is my story again. And I like eventually when it goes into like Spider-Ham, Noir, and the
Penny Parker.
Penny Parker. Yeah. When it goes into all three of them and their origin is kind of the same and it's like all side by side. I'm like, yes, at this point, we're just explaining multiple spider people with the same origin that we did for Gwen and for Peter. And I like that they do that because it just quickly gets out of the way who this character is. We're back to the group up and the team, and it's back to focusing on Miles. There's not too much time spent. Not that I would hate spending more time with Spider-Man Noir or Peter Parker or any of the other characters. It's just, this is Miles' movie.
Yes.
So you can't get too far away from Miles' story, and they don't. They never really deviate, and that's so well done. That's masterful storytelling right there.
Yeah, you know, that's a great point, because one of the questions I have is explaining the well, I'm going to ask you right now, sir.
Okay.
My guest, Leo, my good friend. Explain the difference between Miles and Peter as protagonists, because we've had so much time with Peter's multiple as Spider-Man, and obviously Miles is a very different character in here. So why don't you explain the difference from your perspective?
So, yeah, from my perspective, there is a different starting point for both of them. Peter Parker, when he started as Spider-Man, there was nobody else there around. You know, it was very much an experiment. I have to figure this out on my own. With Miles, it's very different because it was especially this Miles, it was a forced passing on of the torch. He wasn't ready at all. Just gotten bit, just stumbled upon the Spider-Man power, but the torch was still given to him in the sense that Spider-Man had unfortunately in his universe died, and it was up to him to carry that torch now and become the city's protector. And that's a lot of gravity, I think, in both situations, because you think about it, it's like, okay, Peter Parker had nobody to turn to, nobody to say like, oh, you know, spider powers, no mentor, no teacher. Miles was a kid that's just a high schooler, got these powers without really knowing, and then was forced this responsibility, like a great responsibility of being a protector. So there's these two different kind of mindsets, that one was, you know, given the torch as opposed to one that created the torch. And I like that we only get a glimpse of Peter because, like you had said, we've seen so many, Andrew, Toby, and then you've got this Peter B. Parker that could be a combination of all three. I mean, in the beginning, there's like Holland moments, there's a Maguire moment, there's a Garfield moment. I'm like, okay, he's clearly a culmination of all of them.
And but he's GOAT. He's like the ultimate one.
And I love that he has the gut and everything. I'm like, all right, just another relatable layer of Peter Parker that we can all relate to. But Miles, man, I'm like, look, winter's here. Okay, we're getting our extra fur coats on.
Gotta survive.
Yes, sir. But Miles is very much the harbinger, and Peter is the creator. So it's really cool. I like the kind of differences in personality and how Miles has to become more brave. Like his story is about becoming more brave, and Peter's to me is about embracing responsibility.
That's an interesting point, especially considering that they because I agree that Miles' story is about gaining his confidence, right? But he starts off quite confident as opposed to Peter, who's very meek at the beginning of his origin story. But Miles is broken down because he's put into unfamiliar situations and he has to find it back, whereas Peter's just a schmuck who can't get the girl and everything. It's like, oh yeah, hi.
Peter Parker here.
Hi.
Yeah, that's so well said too, because Miles, we see him in the beginning and he's waving to people. People in the neighborhood know who he is. but then he's going to this completely new environment, new school, he gets these powers. But I mean, he's already like painted graffiti around the city, and like he knows this place. And like you said, he had this confidence already, but he was knocked back down by new abilities, new environments. It's crazy, man. It's
I love the
good story.
Yeah, I agree, and I love the kind of this is gonna be very LA of me, but the Banksy feel. You know what I mean?
Right. And somebody even says it in the movie. I think that's a Banksy.
That's a Banksy with the fire hydrants on top.
Yes.
It was great. Miles is a great choice. They did the perfect decision. We don't want the same thing over and over again. And now we have such a unique film that stands on its own. I wanted to bring up really quickly Donald Glover. I had brought him up earlier as a source of inspiration. There was obviously a huge inspiration on him. He did a stand-up special where he mentioned himself as Spider-Man. People were like, "Is that going to happen?" And he even voices Miles Morales in I think that cartoon, the Ultimate Spider-Man.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, he does.
Yeah, and then he shows up in Homecoming as Aaron Davis, the Prowler, at one point. I just love, and this version of Miles kind of has similar personality traits to Donald Glover in some films and some in Community, especially. I just love that inspiration.
Yeah, man. I'm a huge Donald Glover fan anyway, since Community. So yeah, when I saw, and I think when Community came out, like I want to say around 2007. Perfect time for them to have casted him if they would have.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, he's too old to be, Miles Morales by this point. But I do love the inspiration, and I do love Donald Glover as a person. So yeah, when I figured out he was based off of him, like perfect. Yes.
If they do a big old Spider-Verse film, he could be a Spider-Punk.
Ooh, he could, or he could even be like a future Miles or something. Like if they want to go like that.
Yeah.
Yes, involve him.
Oh, you're gonna do it like that, Marvel? Let's do it. Yeah. Just one. And also, can we get a Childish Gambino song in one of these movies?
Oh man, seriously, man.
Yeah.
Well, the soundtrack in Into the Spider-Verse is banging.
Oh. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about that. So one thing I want to talk about specifically that makes this a unique Spider-Man film is the inclusion of the multiverse. For so long we're used to Spider-Man, swinging in Times Square, with MJ and everything. The movie even jokes about this at multiple points. But this is a movie where Miles isn't traveling to other universes, but that idea is being teased. So what do you think about that inclusion of the multiverse in this?
Well done. And especially in the sense that they made it understandable without having to go too deep into it. Mm-hmm. It very much was explained in the beginning of the movie in like a lecture. And I'm like, okay, this was a great way to explain it. I think, unfortunately, the MCU took a little bit of a different route by explaining it through a Loki episode, but I like that they just kind of simply graze over it here and it starts happening and it makes it understandable. It's not this out of reality, can't really understand type of term. It's very well described and included in this story. Graze over a couple storylines. Okay, there's multiple universes. They established that very early on in the movie. And then things start happening. The multiverse machine that was used in the movie, boom, it is what brings everybody here. Like, it's a very simple and easy to understand explanation. So I like the way that it's executed here because it's simple, it's easy to understand. We all can, whether you read the comics or not, we can all understand and appreciate that type of explanation. And it just makes sense. I mean, it's just like, okay, there's more universes out there. And then I can't remember the name of the machine that Doc Ock was using, but
it's like a collider or something.
Yes, the multiversal collider.
Right.
It was real. It was just like easy to grasp. So I love it.
Yeah, and I think one part of it that makes it especially memorable and not convoluted is the fact that it's so visual, the way it's explained, and they use the comic book covers to kind of show this is that one, this is that one. It's kind of like explaining it to a layman in that, oh yeah, he's from that book, he's from that book.
Yep. And I like how some of them are directly inspired by comic books like this one.
Mm-hmm.
I just love that you have these different covers to just describe those universes. Boom, here's Spider-Gwen. Boom, here's Spider-Noir. All the Spider-Ham. You just throw down all these comic books. Makes it easy to understand.
Yeah, it's very very interesting, and it also is helped because it's not taken super seriously.
Yeah,
You know, it is it's meta. It's a meta film. It knows exactly what it's doing. It knows the tropes that we as Spider-Man fans are used to. I mean, there's a point where Miles is about to say the line to Peter, you know, with great power comes great. It's like, shut the fuck. It's like, shut up.
I don't want to hear that again, man.
I don't want to hear that shit. You know, it's really funny. Was there a moment? I mean, I think I might know which moment. But is there a moment in terms of the meta humor that stands out to you the most?
Oh, well, definitely the great power one. Like that,
Okay.
That's a good moment, great moment. But I do like that it is self-aware and it doesn't, like you said, it makes it a joke.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like so serious to where it's like, how is this happening? How, like, nobody's really standing around just like dumbfounded at the fact that this has happened. I think that it's like nice that everybody just kind of rolls with it, but they say, oh, there's been one, you know, weird kind of unique thing that's happened. This has never happened to me before, but they don't dive too deep into the confusion. It's just kind of like, we got to get home. There's no like, oh, are we going to figure out how we could even travel here in the first place? No. Just get us home. Like, let's just find a way home.
I have no way home.
Oh. Right around the corner, man. Right around the corner.
Yeah, the moment that the Spider-Ham just walks up into frame in this flat shot, and you see the look on Peter B's face. He's just like, oh, okay. Okay. That pretty much.
I just washed my hands. That's why they're wet.
That's no other reason. Yeah, I love them. For me, the moment is definitely when they show Bully Maguire. That's
oh my
the
God,
moment for
yes.
me where this movie won me over. So I did a review years ago with Angel when the movie actually came out, and one thing we brought up was the iconography of Spider-Man being so important to us, and that is transferred into Miles, because Miles is a fan of Spider-Man.
Yes.
What do you think about that?
That's really cool in that, like, you know, sometimes there are main characters that are audience characters in the sense that they have the qualities of us. You know, he's got the comic books. As soon as he gets the powers, he's like scrambling into his bedroom. He's got the comic books. He's got it all, you know, laid out. It's like he like you were saying, he's like us. He's an embodiment of our fandom. And it's so easy to be in his shoes when all these things start happening, because like if that started happening to me, that's the first thing I would do is like pick up a Spider-Man comic. Like, what do I do? What do I do?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like really, and I like the reaction to Peter B. Parker and how he's like, this isn't like how my Spider-Man is, because he's so used to Spider-Man being one way. I like that curveball they throw in there of like, this is like Spider-Man in a different moment in his career, different moment in his life where things have not gone the best. So it's definitely a different Peter Parker than he's used to. So I like that even the Spider-Man that he sees is not quite the same that he's used to. It's like everything for Miles is a complete change within a couple days.
Yeah, you know, it's funny because the Spider-Man he meets in the one who dies is the idea of Spider-Man, right? It's the perception he had on Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And the one he is mentored by is the guy. It's Peter. And he has he's sarcastic. He's a little cynical and jaded at this point. He makes the jokes and everything. He's a bit out of shape. Everything is going wrong for this guy, you know, and he starts to learn who Peter Parker really was, because even though the one who died was younger, he was more in his prime. It seemed like he had more fun. That Peter was going through the same things as the older one, because he's Peter Parker. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I love that aspect of Miles's learning to be Spider-Man. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I love the use of the word iconography, because there are just so many iconic things about Spider-Man. Great power comes great responsibility. The suit, Peter Parker being this relatable. Yeah, this poster. Peter Parker being a relatable character in all forms, in the sense that he's not Batman. He's not a billionaire at the beginning. He's not Superman. He's not this super strong alien. He's a kid that got bit by his spider.
Mm-hmm.
And it's always so nice to follow, even when in Miles's case, like it's like a kid, everyday kid, this high schooler that likes this or likes that, art or science or whatever it might be, just gets bit one day and has to take on the world after that. It's such a relatable character in that he has no super facets, but after he does, the world comes crashing down on his shoulders and we have to watch that form. And it's cool to see it with Peter Parker, but even then with Miles, because we've already seen it happen with Peter, you get another character in there. It's like, all right, how are they going to handle it? It's so unique.
Yeah, it is unique. And, it's funny. I think I heard a report years ago, back when the movie was coming out, or after it had come out, that they were looking at, there were ideas of Tobey Maguire reprising the role for that version of the Peter B. Parker, and you could totally see it. You could totally imagine it. If that had happened, what do you think that would have been more appropriate? Do you think it would take away from the potential of them meeting with Tom? What do you think would happen with that?
I think it could have been a little distracting just because you already have an established trilogy with Toby. Then it starts to question itself. Okay, is this a standalone? Is this a crossover? And while it would have been cool to know the familiar voice, the familiar Tobey Maguire essence that he puts into Spider-Man, I think it's nice to get a fresh take, especially in this universe, because it is fresh. It's a Spider-Man animated movie. It's Miles Morales movie. I think I like the idea of everything being fresh and new for Miles, as opposed to like popular territory, because it's cool to have the references and, him kissing MJ and him dancing, doing the Spider-Man 3 dance. Like, I love these little references that they can inject. But if it would have been Toby, it might have been a little distracting and taken away from Miles, because then we're potentially following a Spider-Man 4 possible here. So it could have potentially added too much.
Well, I'm curious, do you think that potential is prevalent with No Way Home, that worry?
I don't have that same worry with No Way Home because it's all live action.
Right.
And I think that the other two Spider-Man movies, unfortunately, just did not have a good conclusion. They technically didn't conclude because Spider-Man 3 was setting up 4. Amazing Spider-Man 2 was setting up 3. So they never got this conclusion. And I think No Way Home is going to allow a closing chapter for both of those characters. I think it would have just drug the Tobey Maguire iteration on longer if they would have put him in Spider-Verse, because then he would have been in 2 and 3. And then it's like, okay, how long are you going to drag this character out? As opposed to put him in No Way Home. This is the conclusion to that Spider-Man story, whether he dies or whatever happens. Then you can move on from that character and start to continue to build Tom Holland Spider-Man and the animated Miles Morales, or if they want to collide, cross them over, whatever they want to do there, but they can continue to build upon it and put those stories to bed, because both of them have moved on. Toby, it's been a little while, so I don't think he can play Spider-Man anymore. Andrew has totally moved on to bigger projects. I think this No Way Home provides a great closing chapter, whereas Spider-Verse would have drugged things on a little too long.
Yeah, it's funny because it's so clear that Peter B. Parker is directly inspired by not only the Sam Raimi stuff, but also the comics. He's referred to as the Amazing Spider-Man. He's supposedly supposed to be 616 in the film. But it's crazy because I think you're right. If that was Toby, it would have felt a bit off because the character is written so differently than Toby's version. And also, I think Jake Johnson, the actor, does a phenomenal job on it. I think he's my favorite version theatrically of Peter Parker. I think he's the most comic accurate. I think his personality, his voice, everything about it just fits so well. And although I'd be interested in maybe like if there's a Tobey Maguire impersonator, I'd like to hear him read the lines. I don't know. I think it's fine the way it all turned out.
Yeah, Jake was incredible. I mean, did a fantastic job with the voice acting and just embodying Peter Parker. He does have that essence of the true 616 Spider-Man. And you could tell that they were, even with the rhyming references, they were still going for that Spider-Man. You know, it would have been weird. Toby doesn't have web shooters. So he has web shooters. It would have been a little weird if he's passing on a web shooter to Miles. And it's like, oh, well, hold on. Aren't you Tobey Maguire? Don't you not have the web shoot? So yes, it would have been these weird story beats to have gone back to. And then it's like, all right, then you got to think like, well, did he fight Vulture? Did Spider-Man 4 actually happen? Like, it starts to become this mind trip. And
what's Bruce Campbell Mysterio or what?
Did we get there? Did we make it happen?
Yeah, man. Well, you know, let's talk a little bit more about Miles, because we could talk about Peter all the time. When it comes to Miles, one thing that's really interesting and is a unique parallel to Peter Parker is his relationship with his uncle. His uncle being a criminal in this, and they cover it super well with Mahershala Ali as the Prowler, and very different casting than, say, Donald Glover.
Right.
You know, very like that's Blade as your uncle. So what do you think about that dynamic? Because it starts off very heartwarming, very you could tell there's a lot of stuff in the past, and then becomes very dreadful later on. So what do you think about it?
So yeah, as a comic book fan, I know instantly that's Prowler. Oh man, you can already tell, like, as they're, you know, meeting and convening throughout the movie, you already know where it's going if you've read the comics. So you're like, okay, I already know this isn't going to stay butterflies and rainbows the whole movie. How they handled it was excellent. I mean, they just did it so excellently. Him, you know, biting the bullet later on in the movie, and this forming this opinion in his dad's mind that Spider-Man is always horrible no matter what. I mean, what a cool dynamic to form there, bringing and involving the dad in that relationship too later in the movie. And just when he figures out it's Miles, just that reaction. Yeah. You know, I find acting to be the most powerful when nothing is said. And when he figures out Miles is Spider-Man, that reaction was just so powerful. Yeah. Of him to just like, oh my God, I have to choose between keeping myself alive or not killing my nephew. Yeah. And then like Kingpin deciding to like dispose of him, if you will. What a emotional beat of the movie. And Miles doesn't even get a chance to really somber and savor that moment, unfortunate moment, because his dad runs up, he has to leave. Like, he doesn't even really get to say goodbye to his uncle. Yeah. Lack of closure. I mean, like, and what I like about that too is it just illustrates the difficulties that you have to go through as Spider-Man. Peter Parker loses his Uncle Ben. Miles Morales loses his Uncle Aaron. It's like, you as a Spider person are going to lose people. Yeah. But you still have to wear that medal. You still have to go out in that suit. You still have to protect the city. Like, it was just a cool twist in the story, because it seems cool to be Spider-Man. You know, Miles is us. If we're Spider-Man, it's like, oh, cool. You get to see all these spider people duking it out, and then it takes a hard turn into, oh man, you can lose really important people in this career, if you will. Yeah, Spider-Man. Yeah,
it's funny because I think that this film takes a lot of elements from the comics of Miles and just improves upon them, because I don't know if the death of Uncle Aaron in the comics would have worked, or that whole relationship in the comics. I don't think that would have worked or had been as powerful as it is in this film, because in the books, Uncle Aaron resorts to extortion. You know, like he's like, you can help me with the Scorpion, mafia, or I can tell your dad you're Spider-Man. You know,
right? Like, it's just not right, and I think they really do a good job of characterizing this relationship, because you get moments with them outside of the suit before they figure out who each other is. You get all this establishment of like them having a very good relationship prior
Mm-hmm.
So it gets you attached to Uncle Aaron. It gets you attached to their relationship and their dynamic before diving into any sort of reveal. And I think it's actually cool in this case if you haven't read the comics, because then it's a surprise to you and you get to like savor that moment of like, oh man, that was a shot. I didn't know Uncle Aaron was a villain. Like, until you start seeing those phone rings and you're like, well, who is calling? You know what I mean? And it's like, all right. They really went there. Yeah, like, okay. He's working with Kingpin. Oh, okay, gotcha. You know, it's a cool reveal for those who didn't know, I believe.
Well, we're talking about villains. Let's talk about the villain of the film.
Yeah.
And it is Liev Schreiber, of all actors, as Kingpin, Wilson Fisk. For the first feature film where we get Spider-Man and Kingpin together, man.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy that it was in this film of all.
I know, right?
All films, you know, it happened here, and it was great. What do you think of the inclusion? I mean, first of all, start with the physical, the physical presence of Wilson Fisk.
Well, because Wilson Fisk is drawn as this big blocky like character anyway in the comics. So I love that they like animate that and he's just got this big brick body. It's like, okay, way to actually personify his big personality and actually create a big body for that massive personality he's got. Coming off of Daredevil, it's difficult because Daredevil in live action has established Vincent D'Onofrio as this ferocious, get what I want, take no orders Kingpin. Like, you're so used to that presence on screen, but man, Liev Schreiber brings such a great dynamic to that character as well. It's crazy that we start the film and he kills Spider-Man. And what a move for like a kid's movie. Like, wow, that was pretty far, to be honest with you, but it just shows how big of a threat that this guy really is. And I think that's the point for Kingpin. You know, with Vincent D'Onofrio, we're introduced in Daredevil to him slamming heads and doors. Like, Kingpin is supposed to be this like mountain of unstoppable evil. And I think they do such a really great job of putting that in this movie, physically and through the acting and through the characters' moments and decisions. Kingpin is the boss, no matter what. He's always a boss. He's always on top. He's always the head of some crazy criminal organization. They do such a great job here with that, and also including an alternate universe Doc Ock to work alongside him, voiced by Catherine Hahn, who is an amazing in WandaVision. Yeah. So it's like, wow, you get so many great voice actors for this, but man, Kingpin, 2 thumbs up, and that was a lot, like a very tall order after Daredevil.
An extremely tall one. You know, it's funny because one is obviously aimed for children, one is aimed for adults, but they are just as ferocious and as savage as each other. And it's so remarkable how different you can approach the characters, because the D'Onofrio one is definitely more of kind of like kind of alienish, you know what I mean? His personality is so extremely different and unique, and he's almost like a proper sire, you know what I mean, in the way that he speaks and treats people. It's just like, it's very unique and very bizarre. Whereas this, he is just straight up Goodfellas, and like he's channeling De Niro, you know, he's channeling Harvey Keitel and all those guys, you know, and it is horrifying. It takes me back to the 90s show where Kingpin was always the one on top, you know, and it does hit different when he kills Spider-Man at the very beginning, because wow.
Didn't think they would go there in like a kid's movie either. So I was just like, whoa, they decided to still make him this unstoppable like force in the movie. And like, just the fact that it was like right before, like, okay, Spider-Man a moment before had this montage where the voiceover includes like get back up every single time, no matter what. Yeah. Kingpin was the one to put him down for good. Yeah. Like, what a tall order. And Miles Morales has to beat this guy.
I had enough of you pansy bat.
I mean, homeboy just raises his fist and slams down on him and kills him. I'm like, oh, okay, that squashed Spider-Man. Okay, not Green Goblin, not anybody else. Kingpin.
Yeah, no, bam, bam, smash. Honestly, and by the way, I need Wilson Fisk in Hawkeye. I mean, we haven't seen at the time of this recording, we have not seen episode 5, and I think this is going to be released on the same day. But Leo, very quickly, tell me what you need to see Wilson Fisk do in Hawkeye.
Oh, we need to have him as the criminal leader, the uncle of Echo, the criminal leader of the organization.
Yeah.
I really need him to be involved in this, man, and be the jumpsuit mafia, like crime organization boss. There's so much there. I mean, there's like a garage that they're all communing in, and it's like the Fat Man,
like, garage.
It's something like that. I'm like, that's Kingpin. The hand in episode 3 is clearly him. The laugh.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is Vincent.
Yeah. No, I need him to show up to Hawkeye, and I need him to say, "Take your shot." yeah. I'm done.
Imagine he just like shoots at him and he like sidesteps. Like Kingpin just is like, nope.
Oh man, Hawkeye. I'm worried for Clint, dude. I'm worried, man.
I mean, think about it. He's got Florence Pugh after him. So he's got Yelena Belova after him. He's got Echo after him, and he would have Kingpin. Wow. He is in hot water.
Yeah, he's done. I don't know how he's surviving that. Got to McClane his way out of it.
Might not.
No, maybe not. Don't say that, man. Okay, so we talk about Kingpin. It's a brutal version of the character. Real quick, let's talk about the cast of this film, man. It's a remarkable cast. You got Shameik Moore as Miles Morales. You have Chris Pine as the Spider-Man who was killed at the beginning. And I had no idea that was him. I was like, dude, who is that? That voice is so familiar. And it was Chris Pine. And that is fantastic casting. What do you think about when you heard that was Chris Pine?
So I just like how he has this like heroic, like this whole heroic aura about him. And I'm like, wow, Chris Pine can do that, and this is coming off of like Wonder Woman. Well, and he's been Captain Kirk. And
right,
I'm like, all right, he can really embody a hero well. So I thought that was such a good choice for like who we would think Spider-Man to be.
Yeah.
And I love that. I love Shameik Moore. I'd seen him in Dope and a couple other things. And I think he had actually been in that Netflix TV series around the same time. So it's like, all right, we've seen him very well done with the voice acting, kind of this awkward teenager. Like he does embody that Miles Morales very well. Haley Steinfeld as Spider-Gwen.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
What a great casting. Yeah. And she's Kate Bishop. Man, she's staying busy, ain't she?
Yeah, she's getting paid. She
is.
And she's fighting 2 kingpins. There you go. Yeah.
There you go.
What's the name of that comedian who plays Spider-Ham?
John Mulaney.
John Mulaney who's also on SNL, is very funny, has a very unique voice for Spider-Ham.
Perfectly cast, and then you got Nicolas Cage as freaking Spider Noir. I'm like, yes, this is perfect.
that is literal perfection.
Everywhere I go, the wind follows.
Everywhere I go, the wind follows. Yeah, I love that they even mimic his hand.
Yes, like so good.
They went there, man. I'm about to look up the other actors because I don't want to disrespect the actress who plays Penny Parker.
I don't know off the top of my head.
Yeah, but we also have, like we mentioned, Mahershala Ali as the Prowler. Kimiko Glenn plays Penny Parker.
Okay.
And she does a great job. I love that whole anime influence on it.
I know.
Yeah, each character is designed after the world they inhabit, right? So black and white is Noir's thing. Cartoon Looney Tunes is Ham's thing.
Yeah.
Anime is Penny's thing, and it's all brilliant. Brian Tyree Henry plays Jefferson Davis.
That's right.
Yeah.
Gosh, so good.
Oh, apparently Donald Glover plays Troy Barnes in this film. Okay. Yeah. Liev Schreiber is the Kingpin, as we brought up. It's stacked. Oscar Isaac as Spider-Man 2099 is the best thing I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah. What a casting. What a cast. And what a way to keep that hidden. no clips, no previews or anything, and then just go to him at the end. What a great way to end. Oh, and use the 60s Spider-Man meme, the pointing meme. Just so brilliant.
Honestly, what I love about these castings is that they could easily work in live action.
Yes.
And I think that they're kind of setting that up, especially, and we'll talk a little bit about that later. That'll be the last point, Leo, because I want to nerd out with you about that stuff. But
let's do it.
The point is, it's a fantastic cast, and we love it. And another part of this that is fantastic is the comic book flavor. They heavily embrace that, and it makes it what it is, a unique film. So what were you thinking when you first saw like the panels showing up, you know, the word balloons, the onomatopoeias and everything?
Oh man, so it was like just that first hit of that was like so impressive. Because going in, we had talked about it earlier, we're nervous, we don't know if it's going to work out, and then just to see that they dedicated this to really feeling like a comic book. The animation is so colorful and bright and so saturated with color. I love the movement, the jittery movement, the comic bubbles, the onomatopoeia, everything that is included from comic books. It's just so brilliantly executed in this movie. And the animation is so colorful and stunning, and this nice balance between 3D and 2D environments. I think that they make a really good use of leaning back on 2D animation when they have to, and also creating a very visually unique experience, because it was something that I know they had done in several movies before, but like the kind of animating every other frame to give them this like more stiff and jittery, but at the same time unique and crispy feel. It's just something that you could tell there was a lot of effort put into it, a lot of love put into it, and a lot of dedication. Like, I just could tell everyone involved was very into comic books, because it felt like you had opened a comic and had been reading a live comic the whole time. The action shots are great. Even the action choreography, like, it's just really well executed. It's sharp, and the jittery motion of the characters doesn't make it feel unsmooth. It still feels right in this element. And so I love every little facet of this animation. The colors are crazy. I mean, these different greens and blues and purples, reds, all these just sharp colors. Really, really well done. I mean, I watching it today right before this, just seeing how colorful it was a nice return to form, man. And we look at the second film and how that was like a little sneak peek, and how it's going to form into the same world as the first. It's just going to be so impressive, man. Like, it is so impressive and sharp and clean, and I could talk about it all day. Yeah. It's so good.
Yeah, well, I love that, and you said it all, and I think that it's a trend that I think is going to serve this part of the franchise really well. You know, you even seen that new trailer that came out, the way that each world they go into is so differently animated, has such a different look to it. It's unique in that, and it's beautiful art direction. It's as simple as that. Yeah,
man, beautiful.
And one theme that we have to talk about is love here, because it's all about the loss of love and the gain of it. You know, there's the relationship between him and his father, him and Peter, him and Gwen, Peter and Mary Jane, and everything. Apparently, Zoe Kravitz also does the voice of MJ and Mary Jane in this film. Yeah, I heard that a while ago, and I was surprised. Just like,
same.
I look just like you. And it was crazy. But yeah, this is all about love and kind of finding it, not finding it for the first time, but appreciating it, you know, because he's distant from his father. He gives him the hug at the very end. How did that resonate with you?
Oh, it was beautiful, man. It was beautiful. And seeing Peter B. Parker go through all that loss, but then find a newfound love in the mentorship that he gave to Miles. I think you said it perfectly, is that it was loss of love and rediscovering, because every character had lost someone and they had rediscovered it in the circle of the Spider people, because Gwen lost her Peter. Yeah. Peter lost his MJ. Every character had lost someone, but they have found that newfound hope and love within one another. And I love that you see it in Miles's universe happen when he loses his uncle and then he gains the love of his father in and out of the Spider-Man suit.
Yeah.
So it's so cool to develop these characters and be able to hit both sides of the spectrum when it comes to love, loss, and gain. So it's really well executed here. Every character finds more of themselves when they collide and come together as a team. It's so well done. So well done. And and Gwen and Miles too. Nice little coupling there. Yeah. They went with like,
And another character who also gains, I want to bring up quickly, is Aunt May. You know, because she loses Peter, and you get this really heartbreaking scene when she meets Peter B. Parker, who had lost his Aunt May. You know, and the dialogue, I think, is so real. You know, she just looks at him and says, "You look tired," you know, and wow, that holds so much weight. That there's something about that line, and him saying, "I am really tired," it hits. You know, it hits heavy, man. God, why is this movie so good?
It's so good, man. And it's just so cool to show the parallels through the dialogue there. She lost her, you know, Peter Parker at his best. I mean, she lost her Peter when he was in peak condition, and he lost his Aunt May when he was at that point, the lowest point of his life. So it was this cool, like, dynamic shift there of like, she lost her Peter at one point, he lost his Aunt May at one point. So really cool, really cool.
Yeah, this is a movie that really is, I said this after watching it last year at Angels with them again, and it really is a movie that makes you appreciate being alive. You know what I mean? Like, it's one of those movies where you're just like, man, I'm so happy I got to watch that.
Feel good, man.
Yeah.
Feel good.
Yeah, honestly. And another part of this that makes me feel good is the music, because the soundtrack selection is it's obviously hip hop inspired, very modern hip hop inspired, because you've got people like Nicki Minaj, you got Post Malone, you got Jaden Smith, and over and over. They do have a little moment of 90s nostalgia with Biggie.
Biggie, baby. That was great.
That's when I was like, if they play Outkast in here,
Part two?
You never know, man. Hey, could I get a Spider-Man played by Method Man or something? Let's go.
Spider rap.
Yeah, dude. So what did you think of the music selection here?
Oh, loved. I mean, I'm a hip hop fan at heart, so absolutely loved it. Every song they used, everything. I mean, Sunflower was #1 for weeks after this movie, like months. It just played over and over and over, and every time it came on, I loved it. You know, you imagine Miles Morales whenever the song plays, so it's like, yes, like, just to have that dominating the charts too at the time, it just really built on the culture of this movie, and I loved the music, like even the score down to brass tacks, sound effects, sound mixing, all of it, the sound effects, like everything they do with sound in this movie, just incredible. And I love, like, just the non-lyrical hip hop beats were super well produced and just really well placed in the movie. Like, it's awesome. And that's part of Miles's character. They do it in the video game. Like, honestly, it's just so well executed, man.
Yeah, it's definitely something they added separate from the comics, because obviously in comics you don't hear them, but here they can take those liberties. Is there any artists, whether it be contemporary or from the golden age, that you want to hear in the next film?
Well, you said Outkast, so I'm down for that. You know what? What's crazy is, like, Kendrick has done Black Panther. I'm like, dude, come on over and do something for Into the Spider-Verse too.
Maybe a little, yeah, that would be pretty dope. Kendrick coming in, oh my god, why you got to do that?
Man,
dude?
that'd be great. Like, oh man, you do Black Panther and you're doing Into the Spider-Verse, awesome. Or this would be in character, do Donald Glover. Use some Childish Gambino. Have him come in and produce the next soundtrack. Like, it'll be banging.
For real.
Banging.
I need to. The people I'm gonna bring up are probably a bit too dark. You know, like, I would love to hear Scarface. Obviously, at one time, Inspector Deck. If MF Doom were still alive.
Oh man, that'd be cool.
That would be
hella
beautiful.
Cool.
That would be hella cool. I know. Scarface had a track on Venom 2. Did you hear that?
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it plays in the credits.
Oh, okay.
Best part of the movie.
Amen. When that post-credit scene happened, I was like, this is the movie.
You know what? That was the best lead-in to that post-credit scene. Or yeah, it was best thing about it surrounding the post-credit scene. When you get Wu-Tang in a film, it's kind of done. It's kind of done. All right.
That'd be great in another. Get some Wu-Tang. I'd be down.
They reference Spider-Man in that. In Protect Your Neck.
Yeah, I'm like, bruh, bring that in.
Swinging through your town like your neighborhood Spider-Man. Yeah, come on.
Yeah,
let's do it.
Let's get it.
Yeah, come on. God damn it. All right, thank you. Let's geek out very quickly before we wrap up, my friend. Are you ready?
Do it. I'm ready.
So, do you need to see Miles Morales in No Way Home?
Do I need? No.
Yeah. Yes.
Do I want? Yes.
Yes.
I need it all, man. Look, I need it all. I absolutely need Miles Morales in some sort of live action. Whether that be No Way Home, whether that be after. Look, it looks like he's running through Feast in the trailer. I'm like, if they want to go the video game route, pop him in the Feast, I'm down. Get him in some way, though. Some way. And look, I said, bring him in here, put him in the Spider-Verse, SPUMC, Sony stuff. Give us a Spider-Man in that universe, because not having a Spider-Man in that universe has been a little embarrassing. Yeah. Like, it's like, come on, we gotta have a Spider-Man. Like, we've got a Venom 2, Venom 1, Venom 2, Morpheus. I'm coming off of Matrix 4 binge session, but Morbius and also Craven. You got all these villains having movies, and I'm like, well, what about Spider-Man? This is Spider-Man's universe, and we're making all these movies and all these without Spider-Man.
Yeah, especially with Venom 2 confirming that it was in another world where all this stuff happened, you know, and they tease Spider-Man throughout this, especially in the second film. They tease heavily that they're going to meet, and then you got the post-credit scene and all that. So it is a bit bizarre, the idea of these villains are his villains, but they're not in the same world, you know.
And then in Morbius in the first trailer, he's walking past a poster and there's a Spider-Man there, and it looks like Toby's, and I'm like, what is happening, dude? Like, what is the plan here? So I think it would be cool if they brought Miles in No Way Home, and then he was the Spider-Man over there. They cross over. They maybe Holland comes over for one, he comes over for another. Do what you will, but come on, get a Spider-Man over there, and I nominate Miles.
That's a great idea. I certainly hope that when it comes to the inclusion of Miles in No Way Home, if there is any inclusion, I do hope that I don't need Miles to show up. Like, you know, it's like, hey, because we already have it would be great, but we already have Toby and Andrew, and I feel like that's enough. But I would love a tease to the world of this film. You know, you're dealing with the multiverse. You're dealing with variants. I don't think it's very much out of the question to include some sort of tease to the Shameik Moore specifically version of Miles, because like we were talking about earlier, these castings work in an animated and live action context. You know, so if they're casting like that, I think it's for a reason, and it's because they probably do want to bring some of these guys into a live action setting, especially since we see that these characters, their physiology changes depending on the world they go into. So what the hell?
Wow. If we would see him materialize in live action and become Shameik Moore, that'd be crazy.
Yeah,
crazy.
Then you get Nicolas Cage in a Spider-Man suit.
Yeah, man. Nick Cage running around in the Spidey suit. Let's do it.
I punch Nazi. Need to go crazy. But yeah, that's the Spider-Verse discussion. Leo, thanks so much for helping me out with that, man.
Hey, thanks for having me, Julius. It's always great to collaborate with you. And guys, thank you for having me on the channel. I've been seeing y'all posting so much great Spider-Man content, man. Like, you guys have been killing it, man. So thank you for having me on.
Well, thank you so much, and hopefully this podcast was recorded in stereo, not mono. And I want to let the people find you. So why don't you tell us where we can do that?
You can find me over on YouTube at Geekly Goods. Just go ahead and search that up. I'll be the first one at the top with the 2 Gs. Come on over to the channel. Just check me out, guys. We're talking all things Spider-Man leading up to No Way Home. I mean, tons of Spider-Man content coming up. So next week is basically going to be Spidey week with all kinds of stuff. And then you can follow me on Twitter at Leo_Rydell, where I talk about comic books, movies, and food. So come on.
Oh, good. Just like the older Peter in this film.
You know it.
Yep. Pizza time, baby. Yeah. All right, guys. Thank you so much for listening. You can find us wherever the GOAT Movie Podcast is. You do the research. I did the podcast. You do your part of the work, please. Leo, thanks again so much. I really appreciate it. Can't wait to talk to you again.
Hey, thanks for having me on. Thank you so much.
And hey, enjoy the film.
Oh, you too, man. You too.
All right.